The Anderson family Christmas Eve dinner was always an exercise in endurance. This year, however, as snowflakes drifted past the floor-to-ceiling windows of my parents' luxurious penthouse, it felt particularly suffocating. And then, my brother Marcus continued swirling his expensive bourbon, I closed the Peterson deal. Biggest bonus in the firm's history. He smirked in my direction. Some of us know how to actually succeed in finance. I took a small sip of water, letting his words roll off me like they had for the past 5 years. Around the meticulously decorated dining table, my family continued their annual tradition of celebrating everyone's achievements while pointedly ignoring mine. Speaking of success, my mother chimed in, adjusting her Cartier bracelet. Have you seen Marcus's new Maserati? He had it custom-made in Italy. Hard work pays off, Marcus preened. Unlike some people who waste their Stanford MBA playing with startups. Dad, ever the investment banker, nodded sagely. I still don't understand why you left Wellington Financial, Victoria. Vice president at 26, you were on the fast track. I wanted to build something of my own, I said quietly, cutting into my barely touched turkey. Build something? Marcus snorted. Is that what you call that little fintech experiment of yours? What's it been now, 5 years? And still working out of that shabby office downtown? Mom reached across the table to pat my hand condescendingly. Darling, there's no shame in admitting defeat. Marcus could easily get you a position at his firm. Junior analyst, perhaps. The suggestion hung in the air like expired perfume. I withdrew my hand, thinking of the email I'd received just hours ago. They only knew. Actually, I started, but Marcus cut me off. Oh right, it's present time. He stood up, gesturing dramatically. Though some of us might have to sit this one out. Can't afford presents this year, Vicky? The family turned to look at the small pile of modestly wrapped gifts I'd brought. They paled in comparison to the mountain of designer-labeled packages from Marcus. I managed something small, I said evenly. How sweet, Mom cooed. It's the thought that counts, isn't it, Richard? She glanced at my father, who was already engrossed in his phone. Marcus started distributing his gifts. A Rolex for Dad, a Hermes scarf for Mom, designer everything for his girlfriend Jessica. Each unveiling was accompanied by appropriate oohs and ahs. And for my dear sister, he announced with exaggerated generosity, a gift card to help upgrade that tragic wardrobe of yours. Can't have you embarrassing the family name. I accepted the envelope with a tight smile, thinking of the 3 board meetings I'd conducted that morning in my tragic suit. Now, Marcus continued, who's ready for my big news? He grabbed Jessica's hand. We're buying the Hamilton estate. You know, that historic mansion on Riverside Drive. Mom nearly dropped her champagne glass. The Hamilton estate? But that's been off the market for years. Until now, Marcus grinned. The old man finally agreed to sell. 20 million, but worth every penny. The papers will be signed next week. Oh darling, that's wonderful. Mom exclaimed. Victoria, isn't that wonderful? Your brother, a true success story. I checked my phone discreetly. 7:58 p.m. Almost time. Speaking of the Hamilton estate, I said carefully, have you signed the final papers yet? Marcus frowned. No, but it's a done deal. Why? Just curious. I glanced at my watch. You might want to check with your realtor. What's that supposed to mean? Marcus demanded, his face reddening. Right on cue my phone rang. The caller ID displayed board chairman. I answered on speaker, letting my family hear every word. Madam CEO, James Montgomery's distinguished voice filled the room. I'm pleased to inform you that the merger is complete. Global Financial Times is running the story at 8 p.m. sharp. Anderson Digital Banking is now officially the largest fintech company in North America. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Marcus's face went pale. Dad's phone dropped to his plate with a clatter. Thank you, James, I replied calmly. And the other acquisition? The Hamilton estate purchase was finalized an hour ago. Congratulations on your new corporate headquarters. The silence in the room was absolute. Jessica's fork hung halfway to her mouth. Marcus looked like he'd been hit by his own Maserati. Oh, and Victoria? James added. Forbes is running your cover story tomorrow. The future of banking, how Victoria Anderson built a $4.8 billion empire. Shall I send over the advance copy? That would be perfect, I smiled, ending the call. I turned to my shocked family. More turkey, anyone? The next few minutes were a symphony of chaos. Mom frantically dabbed at the spilled champagne with her Hermes scarf, completely forgetting its four-figure price tag. Dad's trembling hands tried to unlock his phone, no doubt rushing to check the financial news. Marcus sat frozen, his face cycling through various shades of red. This is a joke, he finally sputtered. It has to be. Your little startup. I pulled out my tablet, sliding it across the table. The Global Financial Times homepage loaded with a breaking news banner. Breaking. Andersen Digital Banking completes historic $3.2 billion merger with Nexus Bank. CEO Victoria Andersen becomes youngest banking executive to cross $5 billion market cap. Not so little anymore, I said quietly. Dad grabbed the tablet, his banking instincts kicking in. This is impossible. The merger negotiations with Nexus Bank have been industry gossip for months. Everyone knew they were in talks with Wellington Financial. They were, I confirmed, taking another sip of water. Until I offered them something better. Digital infrastructure, AI-driven analytics, and a customer base that's grown 400% in the last 2 years. Wellington couldn't compete. But the Hamilton estate, Marcus stammered. I had a deal. You had a verbal agreement. I had $28 million in cash and a closing team that worked through the night. I checked my phone again. The deed was registered an hour ago. Would you like to see the paperwork? Mom finally found her voice. 28 million? But that's 8 million over asking price. The property's worth it. The location is perfect for our new headquarters, and the historical architecture adds just the right touch of gravitas. I smiled. Plus, I knew Marcus wanted it. You did this on purpose, he accused, standing up so abruptly his chair scraped across the floor. You knew I was buying that house. Like you knew I was negotiating the biggest fintech merger of the decade? I countered. Oh wait, you were too busy mocking my little startup to notice. Jessica, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly perked up. Does this mean you're really rich now? Jessica. Mom hissed, but I laughed. Yes, Jessica. The merger puts my net worth at approximately $1.2 billion. But who's counting? Dad's hands shook as he poured himself another drink. Why didn't you tell us? All these years. Tell you what exactly? I set down my glass carefully. That while Marcus was bragging about his bonuses, I was building the future of banking. That while you were lamenting my wasted potential, I was filing patents that revolutionized digital transactions. That while Mom was trying to set me up with junior analysts, I was closing deals with Silicon Valley's biggest venture capitalists. But you drive a Honda. Marcus protested weakly. A Tesla actually as of last month. Though I prefer my driver for day-to-day travel. I stood up, smoothing my tragic Armani suit. Now about those Christmas presents. I gestured to Michael, my personal assistant who had been waiting quietly in the hallway. He entered pushing a cart laden with elegantly wrapped packages. For you, Dad, controlling shares in that boutique investment firm you've been eyeing. Consider it acquired. I handed him a thick envelope. Mom, the Paris apartment you lost the bidding war for last summer. The keys are in the box. Another package. Marcus. Well, I thought about buying your firm, but that seemed a bit petty. So instead I got you this. I handed him a small, simple envelope. Inside was a single business card, mine. What's this supposed to be? He asked. An opportunity. Despite everything, you're good at what you do. My company's launching a new division next month. We need someone to head traditional investment strategies. I met his eyes. The job's yours if you want it. But this time you'll be working for me. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus stared at the card like it might bite him. Mom clutched her new apartment keys, tears streaming down her face. Dad was already on his phone, probably verifying his new acquisition. I should go, I said, checking my watch. I have a video call with our Tokyo office in an hour, and then the Forbes photographer is coming for the cover shoot. Victoria, wait. Mom stood up, mascara running. Please. We've been so wrong. Yes, you have, I agreed. For 5 years, you've treated me like a failure because I chose a different path. You mocked my dreams, dismissed my achievements, and never once bothered to actually understand what I was building. We're sorry, Dad said quietly. So sorry. I know you are. Now. I picked up my coat. The question is, what are you sorry for? Missing my success, or missing the chance to benefit from it sooner? The following weeks were a masterclass in family dynamics under pressure. My parents and Marcus cycled through various stages of realization, from denial to desperate attempts at reconciliation. The family group chat, once dominated by Marcus's boasts, now sat eerily silent except for awkward attempts at conversation. I focused on what I did best, building my empire. The merger with Nexus Bank was just the beginning. We had expansion plans across 3 continents, a revolutionary blockchain banking platform in development, and a list of acquisition targets that would make traditional banks nervous. The morning of the Forbes cover story release, I sat in my temporary office, a whole floor at the Four Seasons until the Hamilton estate renovations were complete. The headline stared back at me, "Banking's New Guard: How Victoria Anderson Built a Billion-Dollar Empire Under Everyone's Nose." "Miss Anderson?" Michael appeared at my door. "Your brother is here. Again." This was Marcus's 3rd attempt to see me since Christmas. The first 2 times I'd been in meetings. Today felt different. "Send him in." Marcus entered, looking decidedly less polished than usual. His designer suit seemed slightly rumpled, his normally perfect hair showing signs of stress. "Nice office," he said, taking in the panoramic city views. "Bet the rent is more than my annual bonus." "I own the building actually," I replied, not looking up from my tablet. "What do you want, Marcus?" He sank into one of the visitor chairs, deflating slightly. "I've been doing some thinking. About your job offer." Now I looked up. "And? I want to know why. After everything, all the things I said, the way I treated you, why offer me a position?" I studied him for a moment. "Because despite being an arrogant, condescending ass, you're excellent at traditional banking. My company needs that expertise." "Under you," he said quietly. "Yes, under me. Problem with that?" He laughed humorlessly. "You know what's ironic? All these years I thought I was so far ahead of you. The golden child. The successful one. Meanwhile, you were building something I couldn't even comprehend." "Success isn't always visible," I said, thinking of all the late nights, the rejected pitches, the countless setbacks I'd never shared with my family. "Sometimes it's quietly growing while everyone else is busy making noise." "Mom's a mess, you know." He changed the subject. "She keeps pulling out old photos, talking about how she always knew you were special. Funny how hindsight works. Dad's worse. He's been researching everything about your company. Has a whole wall covered in articles and financial reports. Keeps saying he should have seen it coming." I stood up, walking to the window. Below, the city sprawled out like a concrete kingdom. My kingdom in many ways. "Do you know why I bought the Hamilton estate?" I asked suddenly. "To spite me." "Partially," I admitted. "But mostly because when we were kids, you once told me I'd never be good enough to live in a house like that. Remember? When Dad took us to that charity gala there." Marcus winced. "I was 17. I was 15, I continued. "You said I should focus on marrying rich because I'd never make it on my own. That night I made a promise to myself. Not just to prove you wrong, but to prove myself right." My phone buzzed, another merger opportunity. I glanced at the details and smiled. "Your old firm, Wellington Financial. They're struggling after losing the Nexus Bank deal." Marcus straightened. "Wellington's too proud to sell. Everyone sells for the right price." I turned back to him. "Want to help me acquire your old employer?" He stared at me for a long moment. "You're really offering me the job?" Division head of traditional banking services. Full autonomy within set parameters. Competitive salary, though less than you're used to. "I'll take it," he interrupted. "You haven't heard the compensation package." "Doesn't matter." He stood up. "I've spent 5 years bragging about deals worth millions. You just casually mentioned buying my former company over morning coffee. I want to learn how you think, how you work. Even if it means starting over." I pressed a button on my desk. Michael entered with a thick folder. "Your contract," I said. "Take it home. Read it carefully. Talk to your lawyers. But know this, if you accept, you work for me. Not with me, for me. Any issues with that? None, he said, taking the folder. But I do have one question. That Christmas dinner. You planned it all, didn't you? The timing of the merger announcement, the Hamilton estate, everything. I smiled. Let's just say I learned from the best. You taught me a lot about dramatic timing over the years. As he turned to leave, he paused. Mom and Dad's wedding anniversary is next month. They usually have it at the country club, but the Hamilton estate will be ready, I finished. Tell them they can use the grand ballroom. After all, what's success without a little generosity? He nodded, understanding the olive branch for what it was. After he left, I turned back to my empire building. There were deals to close, innovations to launch, and a family to rebuild, all on my terms. That evening, as I was leaving the office, Michael handed me a small package that had been delivered. Inside was a framed photo of me at my Stanford graduation, young and determined. A note from Mom was attached. I found this while going through old albums. You were already a CEO here, we just couldn't see it. I hope someday you'll let us truly see you now. Love, Mom. I placed the photo on my desk, next to the Forbes magazine and the latest acquisition reports. Success, I'd learned, came in many forms. Building a billion-dollar company was one thing. Rebuilding a family? That was the real challenge. But as I looked out over the city lights, I smiled. I had transformed the banking industry, bought my brother's dream house, and made my parents question everything they thought they knew about success. Not bad for a Christmas revelation. My phone buzzed with another message, this time from Dad. Proud doesn't begin to cover it. Though next time you revolutionize an industry, maybe give your old man a heads up. I texted back, where's the fun in that? Because sometimes success isn't just about the achievements. It's about the moment when those who doubted you finally see your true worth. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's about buying your brother's dream house just to prove you can.